Hey, it's Mark Slater here with Prime Spine Consulting, and I am so lucky, honored to have Josh Gyurke with me here. He's the Director of Global Business Development at Impact. Impact is the concussion or TBI test that we as our chiropractors here in this program are using. So I'd like to introduce Josh. Josh, welcome to this interview today.
Yeah, Mark, thanks for having me. Long-time listener, first-time caller here today.
Yeah, we have been talking for months and kind of helping me get an understanding of the value of Impact Test and what it can do for these chiropractors and other doctors in the personal injury space. So let's just start, Josh, like what is Impact? What is the Impact Test?
Great question, Mark. Everyone hears about impact, everyone hears about concussion, but I don't think a lot of people really understand what it actually is. So let me kind of boil it down for you, right? So Impact is a web-based application that's used for the aid in the assessment of a concussion, right? What that simply just means is that you can offer the test from any computer, any workstation, into your viewership today. I'll let you know that we actually just got approved for iPad administration. So effective a couple days ago, you can now actually offer the standard Impact test on any iPad, any standard size iPad, Mark. So no minis, no tablets, no Kindles, no nothing like that, but any standard size iPad you can offer Impact on, right? There's a baseline test that's given in a normal neurocognitive state. There's what we call our quick test. So that is just as it sounds, it's a quick test that's given acutely to a patient in under 24 hours. And then you have your standard post-injury test.
Yeah, so we have the baseline test. So that's like maybe for high school teams, they take a baseline impact test. If they're injured later in the season, they have something to compare it to. You mentioned the quick test. That quick test is a test administered, I guess if the trauma was less than 24 hours, it's acute. Is that what, for clarity, yes?
Yeah, correct. And it has 3 cognitive components, and it has 2 ocular motor components that are built in. So it's nice. It allows you to qualify patients whether they're asymptomatic or symptomatic.
Got it, but it has to be administered less than 24 hours after the accident or trauma.
Yeah, correct.
So most of the doctors that are, let's say, chiropractors are going to get referred patients, they're going to be using the standard post-injury test, most likely, yes?
Yeah, most likely. They'll be using our standard post-injury test to kind of screen patients and make sure that they qualify for further evaluation.
Just to review, a baseline test, which is not really applicable in personal injury offices, but it's offered through Impact. So if you're a chiropractor and you want to go to your local high school sports organization and say you can do a baseline impact test and charge them something for it, charge the families of the players, I mean, they're buying their kids $200 Air Jordans. I don't think they would scoff at spending $200 for a baseline test on their child who's about to play high school football, for example. The quick test administered less than 24 hours, but the one that's going to be most involved for our clients and chiropractors in the PI space and other doctors in the PI space is the standard post-injury impact test.
Yeah. So I think it's going to kind of be your bread and butter product, right? It's going to be the one that you're going to rely most heavily on in order to assess these patients. Again, screen them and then work with them in some type of return to normalcy trajectory, right? And so that's kind of really what makes Impact what it is today. In addition to that, we have, we've been offered over 27 million times, I think, the way to distribute the test is really malleable in the sense that it really allows you to conform to how you might see your patients. And what I mean by that, right, is whether they're in person, you can offer them the test right then there physically in person, but you can also offer it remotely. I mean, it's one of the really unique things about computerized testing is not only the scalability, but the accessibility, right? And now I can do some remote patient monitoring on my patient if I want. Or let's say that my patient is too severely injured that they can't make it into the facility, they can't drive in. Well, now I can actually send them a test and I can do some evaluation on them remotely. So again, it allows for that flexibility. It allows for some remote patient monitoring. and it allows you to kind of work with these patients more intricately throughout that process, right? And I think we talked about the post-injury test a little bit. If I can just elaborate a little bit, one of the real separations of impact, and one of the things that we kind of really like to, stroke the feather in our hat on, is the fact that you actually don't need a baseline test in order to evaluate a patient on the post-injury side. So whenever you see that patient, it might be the first time that you're actually offering that patient a computerized neurocognitive test. And that test you can actually run against our normative database, which consists over 75,000 normed ranges of demographics. So what that simply means is that now I can compare you to specifically your demographic, and I can tell how you're performing in relation to a normal non-concussed patient. So it kind of gives you what we call percentiles and composite scores. And those allow you a data point in order to track a person back to normalcy, but also how they're performing and how they're performing in relation to a non-concussed person.
Got it. Okay. Let me ask you this. So let's say the patient's going to take the post-injury impact test. Is that something that the doctor can bill for in the office? I get that question a lot. Do you have awareness of they can bill for the test, or do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we even go as far as actually supplying CPT code. So, I would encourage your doctors to to kind of look into it. The coding is very simple. Not to be kind of don't kind of be hesitant around the coding. Like we, here at Impact, I will actually, kind of handhold you through the process. I can make some recommendations and kind of let you kind of explore with maybe your billing and coding resources to kind of vet those out. But it is something that we already have in a template. It is something that we're all too familiar with, and it is something that we can process.
So once they become an Impact certified doctor, you can provide them with all the information, the billing codes, recommended charges, and I know that's going to vary and be state specific, but I get that. So Josh, can we talk about the certification process? So like the first step is to get certified with Impact. Tell me a little bit about how that looks and how that works. I know for my clients, I provide them a link where they can save 20% on the certification process. But what does that look like once they get started?
Yeah. I mean, great question. I mean, certification, getting trained. I mean, it's a real important facet to what you're doing and in the capacity in which you're doing it. The certification process that we offer here specifically is what we call video on demand training. What that simply means is you can stop the videos at your leisure. You don't have to go anywhere. It can kind of conform to your busy schedule as a provider, and it allow you to kind of complete that coursework over whatever period of time you'd like to complete it. In addition, it also gives you that identifier that you're actually certified in concussions and in reading and assessing impact data in relation to a concussion. So some of the coursework that is incorporated in that, it's about, I think, 3.5 hours or so. We cover concussion clinical trajectories. We cover impact clinical report interpretation. We cover concussion care for older adults and seniors, and concussion care beyond athletics. So everything that we think would be important in this space, we give to you, and we kind of give you a good fundamental basis of understanding, so you can offer the service and you can offer it to a very high degree.
Okay. So after the certification process, the doctor is now certified with Impact. What's the next step? So they start an account with your company, Impact, correct?
Yeah, so once you get comfortable with actually concussions, with actually understanding what the data is showing you, really the next step is to kind of begin to put one foot in front of the other and actually begin to offer the product to the patients. And so what we would do, and I think it's even on your website, Mark, I think that they can just follow the link on there. They can start and fill out all the pertinent information on that link. That will notify us in real time of somebody who wants to proceed with an account activation. Once we get notified of that, we'll reach out to the person. We'll schedule what we call a formal rollout call. That formal rollout call is very simple. It's designed to acclimate somebody with the system. And what that looks like is we're familiarizing you with, how do I access the system? How do I offer a test? How do I look up a test? How do I add additional users into my account, right? So just some basic functionality in order for you to start offering the test same day if you really want to. But again, really designed to better understand you, better understand your organization, and how this product slides into your clinic workflow, and kind of answer any questions about how you can kind of optimize that into your clinic workflow.
Right. Okay. So now I'm certified. I've gone through all the training. I've had my formal rollout call. I used my link that I provide for my clients to give them extra bonuses with your company. And now they have a patient, and they give them the Rivermead or Stanford post-concussion questionnaire, and it has some positive findings, and now they're ready to give the patient the impact test. Tell me what that workflow looks like.
Right. Yeah. So ultimately, after they give them an impact test, then what's going to happen is they're gonna get a report. That report is going to have some indications on it that they're going to use their clinical assessment and judgment based off of to determine that this person then needs to see a medical provider in terms of like an MD, a neuropsychologist, a neurologist, somebody of qualifying degree, so they can work with them not only for a return to normalcy protocol, but even potentially some downstream behavioral health testing, right? And so, so there's some organizations out there like Braincussion. Braincussion's a great organization to kind of work with and to partner with in this space, because they kind of do package everything up nicely. They do offer it to you in that mentioned package, and they even they'll work with you in a multitude of ways, right? Like they'll work with you on a lean basis. They supply the neuropsychologist, etc. Right? So that would be something where in terms of next steps, I'd kind of encourage your members to kind of look into and kind of explore if there would be some synergies in that partnership, right?
Because that medical neuropsych or neurologist has to assess the TBI test, especially in a chiropractor's office. But Josh, you also mentioned there's other alternatives other than Braincussion, which is fine, you can use them. But what are some other alternatives that you mentioned to me in our previous calls to have their impact test evaluated by an MD?
Yeah, I mean, there's there's obviously local neuropsychologists, local neurologists in your city, in your metropolitan area, in your state, whoever it may be, and so what I would do is I'd encourage you to kind of reach out to either me here at Impact, and I can kind of let you know some neuropsychologists, some neurologists that we work with in this space, and always happy to connect people to other people, just because we're all for the better care of patients, right? So however we can get from point A to point B in the most efficient way possible. I mean, we're here to help, and our perspectives are aligned. So I would just reach out to me, and we can kind of work through what would make the most sense for you and your organization.
Perfect. So how they pay for that neuropsych or pay for that neuro MD could be a variety of ways to do that, but they can reach out to you, and that's just an alternate way of going about hiring a medical neurologist or a neuropsych to evaluate their impact test if they don't want to use Braincussion.
Yeah, I mean, and the good thing is that really you're not then necessarily referring that patient out per se. Like a lot of times these providers.
Telemedicine.
Yeah, exactly. They'll work with you in the telemedicine sense. Like a lot of these neuropsychs are SciPac certified. I think we've talked about that a couple times in our previous calls. It's just a certification that allows them to practice medicine in over 40 states. So again, these providers will actually end up working for you on a contract basis. So you're actually retaining that patient, you're retaining that case, and you're not actually then sending them out. You're just, think of it as bolstering your clinical resources within your umbrella, right? And I think that makes a lot of sense for a lot of people.
So in other words, they have a medical neuropsych under their umbrella of their corporation.
If you want to conceptualize it that way, I mean, you kind of work with these people on a contract basis, right? They'll work with you in, a 1099 basis or whatnot. Things I've heard of, things that people work with. Again, it's something that I'm happy to kind of connect you with, but those would be third-party arrangements. If that would be suitable for your members' organizations.
Yeah, and I know I like to have options. I don't like to have just one option. I like to have a bunch of different options. Although with impact test, I mean, why are the most notable sports organizations using impact? Like, why is impact specifically taking off
in this space, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've compared it, we've talked about this a couple times. I mean, it's in comparison to kind of like one of those brush fires that start out in California, and then before you know it, it's all over the news, and it's out of control. And I think that that's kind of where we're starting to get to in this space, right? Like we have so much, we right now we're getting so much interest, we're getting so much uptake, we're getting so much enthusiasm, we're getting so many people to kind of talk to us about how this is kind of revolutionizing how they're addressing their patients that have TBIs or have concussions, and so it's really encouraging from that sense. But I think it really comes down to a couple different things that we as a product get to really highlight how we separate ourselves out in this field, and that's the reliability and the validity of the product. That's the FDA approval. I mean, we went through a de novo application. We're the only neurocognitive tool on the market that has clearance for the aid and assessment of a concussion. That's really, really big. I like to really just reiterate that we're the only one that you can use in the aid and assessment of a concussion specifically, right? Because that clearance is for that, and they highlight it on there. And so that really helps you. It helps medical providers whenever they're seeing these types of patients. The fact that we've been administered, probably going on this year, over 30 million times. I think one of the things that really helps people in this field kind of really understand, why this is really taking off, why this is really making such exponential leaps and bounds in verticals like this, is the fact that they begin to really understand, and they really begin to become educated on concussions, and they begin to understand. And I think Dr. Conley even mentioned this in one of your previous podcasts, but concussion is it's a functional injury, not a structural injury. And so a lot of times, a lot of these clinics and a lot of these providers use archaic, I'll use the word archaic, right? But they use antiquated methodologies in order to assess for these types of injuries, right? So you probably are all too familiar with, VNG scans, with DTI scans, with MRIs or CAT scans, right? And you understand how costly and how time inefficient they are. You begin to really understand that they're only capturing a very small subset of these injuries, right? Because if you get into the structural side, that's a very small percentage of people that actually do have head injuries, because the majority of them that we've come to find out actually have cognitive deficiencies, right? So, motor functions, basic overall function deficiencies. And so the only way to really capture that is through cognitive testing. And so now, by offering an all-encompassing product in this field, you're now able to capture all types of head injuries, all from the low-grade head injury all to the most severe head injury, right? Not saying that it's not saying that at some point one of these scanning or imaging procedures doesn't make sense, but just saying that this is a good way to screen your patients. It's a good way to work with them in a rehabilitation fashion, both in person and remotely, but also make sure that you're capturing them all and that they're not slipping through the cracks. Because again, if you're using one of those other methods, you probably are getting a lot of pass-throughs. You're not able to you're not able to identify a lot of these injuries. So I really think that that's why, in a nutshell, I think that that's kind of why, a lot of people have become really receptive. A lot of people have given, great feedback. And we've helped a lot of people in this space that, are coming in injured, reach what they should in terms of medical need and medical necessity, through the return to normalcy phase that they have to go through in order to get back to their everyday way of life.
Right. So it sounds like the DTIs, MRIs, CT scans; those are good objective tests or objective modalities for structural deficits that come from a concussion. But impact also adds the cognitive impairments into the testing, which obviously is very important. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Again, when you think of structural, you think of just like 5-10% of these injuries rather than being able to capture 100% of these injuries, right? So that's really what we're going for, right? We're not trying to step over pennies to get to dollars. We're trying to get all the dollars in including the pennies, right? So we're just trying to make sure that we get all the patients that do have some type of TBI symptom, and we're able to address that, and we're able to start working with them in addition to any other ailments that they may have. But I think that is kind of what's really brought to the forefront here, in this space, is just being able to offer the best clinical patient outcomes and the best clinical patient care that we possibly can do, and to do it in a modern med tech approach.
Makes sense. So, Josh, thanks so much for this interview. But just to review, most of my members who are chiropractors are going to see patients who've had a car accident, probably, I don't know, maybe 24 to 48 to 36 hours. So the post-injury impact test is what they're going to be taking. That's the standard, correct?
Yep, standard adult pack.
Right. And once they have that, doctor gets certified with Impact. Once they've received that certification, they're going to get an onboarding or a formal rollout call. Then they're going to set up an account with Impact to order tests. And I imagine most of those tests are going to be the standard post-injury test, correct?
Yep, correct.
And they can order those 1 at a time, 10 at a time. Does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, because we have so many clients, because we offer so many tests in a year, the minimums that we'll do are 25. But 25, they're only $20 a test, so it's not really cost prohibitive. Okay. Especially when we start to talk about, not to refer back to those other types of scans, but it's a great comparison on a per unit basis, right? And those are licenses that you actually get to hold until you use them all. So when you think about, okay, 25 might be a little bit ambitious to start with because you don't know what your patient flow looks like. Well, you just think of them as software licenses, right? You have them until you use them. Then when you use them, we'll simply let you know. And if you'd like to reorder, great.
Right. Okay. So the patient can take their concussion test. They can take it at home. They can take it in the doctor's office from a laptop, desktop, iPad at this point.
Yep.
Okay. Once that test is completed, it generates a report. We have to have that report interpreted by neuropsych, medical neurologist, and we talked about brain concussion is an option, and then they can reach out to you, Josh, for other alternatives. You can recommend them to some people that are in their city or state, where they can also do a telemedicine visit. And those doctors, you mentioned some type of letters that they have a certification to do this?
Yeah, So the docs usually go through either our CIP coursework, so that's the Certified Impact Provider coursework. Some of the advanced like neuropsychologists, MDs, PhDs, PsyDs, they'll go through like our CIC coursework. So our training is discipline specific.
Okay, perfect. So my clients can reach out to you and you can kind of point them in the right direction based on the needs of their specific office and their patient.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Josh, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for the clarity, the information through Impact. I know what you're doing is great, not just for personal injury patients, but for anybody that may have had a concussion or a possible mild or moderate TBI. I love Impact Test. I love working with you. Personal injury is all about relationships. We have a relationship, and based on our relationship is how we're here doing this video to spread the word, spread the information to not only my clients, but people out there that may be curious about putting a TBI protocol in their chiropractic office with an FDA-approved test, having it evaluated by an MD, a neuro or neuropsych that meets the DAW-BEAR standard in terms of a personal injury case. Josh, that might be way over here for you, but for my clients, that's what needs to happen in a personal injury setting. So Josh, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and doing this interview with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone that listened, and just encourage you to kind of reach out. Don't be hesitant. I mean, we've built this to be as simplistic as possible, and we built this to be like one of the most effective tools in your toolkit, one of the most powerful arrows in your quiver. Give us the opportunity to kind of show you what it can do and how it can kind of help you in your caseload.
Awesome. Well, again, Josh, thank you so much. If you have questions, you can reach out to Josh. If you're in my program, you know how to reach him. Right below Josh's screen there, you can see his phone number and email address. If you want to contact Josh with questions about getting certified with Impact or any questions you have at all about the Impact test, just reach out to Josh Gyurke. He's happy to help you. Thank you so much for listening and watching this video today. Like and subscribe to my channel. I post a long form video on YouTube every single week. So like and subscribe to my video. And if you want to reach out to how we can help you grow your personal injury business, contact information is in the description below. Have a great day.